All right. And as it's thinking to go over to Instagram, Claire, thank you for joining us again tonight. I'm powered by authenticity. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Emily, and appreciate being here.
Thank you for your patience. We
Of course.
appreciate it. Oh boy, we have had a fun time getting started tonight. Technology is fantastic when it works, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, welcome back to Powered by Authenticity. I'm so happy to have you join us tonight. For those of you who don't know, Claire has joined us before and just such a lovely guest. So, Claire, thank you for coming back.
Glad to be here and look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, how would you like to remind everybody who you are and what you've been up to?
Up to many things. So, as Emily mentioned, my name's Claire Skillen, and I wear a few different hats. Primary hat is now as a registered clinical counselor and EMDR trained therapist, working towards certification. And also an author, as joined Emily on a previous book, which was a really great experience. I also advise startups on a fractional basis, and I do some fractional work as a management consultant still. So, multiple streams.
Oh my gosh, so you're tired like every moment of the day.
Now, there's definitely beautiful ways of recharging.
Yeah.
Photography is one, and I also snorkel and free dive. So, time in the ocean is where I refill the battery, or one of the main ways, anyway.
Yeah, and now do you get to do some of that locally? Because you're in a beautiful part of the world.
I absolutely do. And in case anyone's asking, yes, it is the Pacific Northwest. And yes, I definitely wear a 7 mil wetsuit. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for being here. We're going to talk about all of the great work that you're up to. As you know, we like to do a little bit of an icebreaker.
Of course.
I know if you're like me, you're super excited about the warmer weather bringing farmers markets.
Mhm.
So, is there anything you really are looking forward to experiencing as part of the local farmers market starting back up again for the season?
One of the things I love to look for in the farmers markets are fresh strawberries. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you freeze them or can them or do anything fancy with them?
Nothing fancy, really, although I did discover one thing the other day, which is the Lindt dark chocolate sea salt caramel. If you melt that and you dip a strawberry in it, it really is pretty good. So I look forward
Oh.
to hearing how people have tried that and see what they think.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
It sure is.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, we were just talking about Lindt has like a 100% cocoa bar, like dipping the chocolate or the strawberry in that super dark chocolate. Like it's probably pretty good.
I think I might have to work my way up to that one, perhaps. But just strawberries on their own are just wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, Ken, you looking forward to anything this year on the farmers market?
Oh, I just enjoy when all the various fruits and vegetables come into season and I can rotate a little bit more other than just the standard, squash, zucchini, whatever I quickly buy at the grocery store. That's
Yeah,
right there.
I know it's so great to have the fresh options because kind of by I don't know about you, but by March the cantaloupe is just like okay, could bring back the farmers market.
Yeah. Worth holding out for.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I'm looking forward to like to your point, strawberries and peaches and fresh
Mm.
peas and like all of the just amazing fresh produce that we get this time of year. It's just so welcomed after a long winter.
Yeah, it
Um,
absolutely is. And there's so much available as well. Plus, the roses and sunflowers are starting to come out as well, especially
yeah.
out here, the wild roses, and the scent is just heavenly.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you for doing that. We love to do a little icebreaker. Why don't you tell us now about the work that you're doing through Seascape Counseling and Consulting? I know it sounds like you've really expanded the practice since the last time we spoke.
Yep, still building. And I'm really passionate about EMDR and what it can do. I think a key premise for the approach I take as a counselor is I take the approach of a co pilot. And it is more of a collaborative approach in nature, in that it's a focus on the fact that the client always has their own agency. And really, I'm there to fly alongside or co pilot alongside or walk alongside, pick your analogy. And in some cases, boost agency for with the client, remind them that they have it, and eventually get to a place where they don't need me in the co-pilot seat anymore, and maybe I'm there down on the ground for some guidance to say, hey, you got a storm at your two, but I know you got this.
Yeah.
So there's a collaborative approach is a fundamental piece of my approach, and I work together with the client as a team, as we both bring our own knowledge sets to work on what the client focus is. The other foundational piece to my approach is existentialism. So going to the deep questions and what people are truly wanting as they navigate their time here on Earth. And I work with clients to help them reconnect and disconnect where they need to, based on what their goals are.
Yeah. It's interesting to me because it's a different approach. It's that partnership approach versus this is what you should do, like getting there together.
Absolutely. Yeah. The client is the expert in themselves, and they've always had that wisdom. So really, I'm there as a co-pilot to help elicit and help them rediscover, in some cases, what was always there. Yeah. And in some cases, maybe some new things after some bigger incidents that people navigate in life, as well as many of us have.
Yeah. Sometimes you get lost, right? You get lost in kind of that messy moment, and getting yourself out of it. You can get close, but you need that extra support and somebody to listen and help you.
Absolutely. I think in today's world too, the world is such a busy and frenetic, beautiful and chaotic place all at the same time. And the impact that has on our nervous systems can feel like a bit of a roller coaster at times for many. Mm-hmm. And so one of the reasons I love EMDR, aside from the fact that it's proven to be, I believe it's the top 3 choice in trauma interventions in the world right now. I think according to the American Psychological Association as well, is EMDR really helps the brain reprocess traumatic memories to reduce sort of emotional activation or vividness. So it's not about resolving everything. Of course, it's not a one and done, boom, you're cured, we're out of here.
Yeah.
It's more about addressing things that are still influencing you in the present. And so when you work through a memory with EMDR that leverages an 8-stage protocol, so like history taking, memory desensitization, and looking at installing new beliefs, in essence, there's an increase in capacity in your nervous system to manage what's left. Right. So for some people that have seen the movie Inside Out by Pixar,
I love that movie.
Yeah, I sometimes use that as a comparison to some of the work that we do in EMDR, and that those glass crystal balls that form as memories in the movie Inside Out, some of them are a little stormy, some of them are very stormy or gray. Some of them are bright, like the positive memories. But for the stormy ones, it's your brain and your system didn't have the chance to do the processing work on it because it was adverse. So I'd like to think that as a team, the client and I reach back down into the memory bank and pull out that stormy crystal ball and bring it into real time without a detailed narrative, I might add, and use something called the adaptive information processing model to rework the memory and give it all the information that it needed at the time and that it never got. For example, a time and date stamp, right? So when we connect with the EMDR, it's kind of like making a phone call to the nervous system saying, you don't need to carry this anymore. Or, this doesn't need to be as big as your body still feels like it needs to be.
That's very interesting. And specifically, what is EMDR? Like, can you explain a little bit more about like what
Of
that looks
course.
like?
Yes, EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and it was developed by Justine Shapiro. And the neat part about the story is she was inspired initially by a walk she took in the forest because she noticed her eye pattern movements as she was walking, going side to side. And when you combine that with the bilateral movement of walking, she noticed the effects that had on our nervous system. And so she worked to develop EMDR as a concept beyond the walk in the forest to see what the broader applications were. And initial studies were done on post-traumatic stress disorder for combat veterans. And on average, there was about 50% positive response rate for those that tried it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That is very interesting. And so others can now apply that for working through their own trauma.
Yes.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. It's like any intervention, it doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah.
However, it's always worth the try. And there's, as mentioned, there's an 8-stage process. So we do an intake. We do ensure that we have a good understanding of where a client is at, capacity for some level of distress tolerance. Because imagine a garden, if you will, and if you have a memory that's planted in a garden, then sometimes it's got a bit of a complex root system. We don't always know what that is until we go into phase 4, which is the reprocessing. And so part of prepping and working with the client is to get as much clarity as we can on some of the negative core or maladaptive core beliefs that are associated with a target memory. The most activating piece of a target memory, and then the positive cognition, which is what you would rather believe in that moment. So as you can reduce the impact, sometimes eliminate the reactivity of a memory, you can also upload something different.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're helping people basically guide through like a traumatic moment and understand like what led to that, and then help them to realize like maybe what the reality of the situation. I mean, sometimes I know, and maybe I'm off base here, so please correct me, but sometimes when it's been a bad moment, it's worse in your head than the reality. So taking yourself back into the reality in that timestamp moment and seeing things as they were, and how to then pivot moving forward with the new reality of what the situation brought forward.
It's something along those lines.
Okay.
I think I would add that if you had something adverse happen in the past, and you didn't have an opportunity to get this or have access to the support that you needed at the time, then that activation, even if you might have processed it mentally and on an intellectual level, maybe you don't feel like it's impacting you. I believe it was Bessel van der Kolk that said the body keeps the score. It still registers in the nervous system. So part of what we do with the EMDR is to look at some of the maladaptive core beliefs and look at core adverse experiences or memories that are attached to that negative core belief. And a common one for many people might be, I'm not good enough. And so we look for adverse experiences that link to that core memory. And so imagine like a root structure. So if you haven't processed a memory properly, and I'll switch to ocean because I'm an ocean woman already.
Yeah.
If you experience a similar memory in present time, and there's some overlap between something you went through in the past and what you're experiencing in real time. That early memory, unprocessed memory, amplifies your response in present time. So, what might normally be like a 2 foot wave in terms of a response
Yeah.
ends up being a 6 foot wave. So, there's a greater reactivity.
Yeah, that's very interesting to me because I can see how useful this could be in so many different situations for people's lives. Like not just the
Absolutely.
trauma, but day to day, like what you may have gone through even growing up or what you told yourself and as you were growing up and it's different situations or early in your career and being able to work yourself out of that. Like I can see that being so helpful for many different phases of your life.
Yeah, 100%. And there's another thing to note as well is if you have something adverse happen or traumatic happen, um, then you have an opportunity, especially with the MDR, if you address it within the first 90 days. Sometimes that can be reduced or mitigated in a single session.
Interesting.
Because you've got about 90 days before an adverse experience takes up a little bit more permanent residence in your nervous system.
Right. Let it have short-term rent versus long-term rent.
You got it. So I think a really important piece here is to keep normalizing support, like accessing things like EMDR, and make it as a normal part of your routine as brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Because our nervous system deserves the same kind of care.
Yeah. Well, and I always say that asking for help, which this can be encompassing that, right? Like asking for help through a situation. It's such a strength that people can show for themselves versus
Absolutely.
having that stigma that there's something wrong with asking for help or helping you see through a situation. Like it's such a strength that people can bring forward.
It absolutely is. And in today's world where capacity and attention are critical or in high demand, when we work on addressing some of those adverse experiences that are taking up space in some ways or perhaps influencing how we might rather show up in the world, then it builds capacity to manage present time.
Yep. Yeah. And there's so much. I think people, especially right now, are going through so much present time that anything we can do to help manage ourselves, why not afford yourself that opportunity?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love it. And the outcomes have to be spectacular. Like there have to be some really cool outcomes that you're seeing as part of this work day to day.
Yeah, it's really a privilege to witness a client set something down. And an important piece to remember is you don't actually have to remember something specifically in order to reprocess it. I think a lot of people can feel limited by saying, well, I don't remember what happened. I just know that this feels, bad.
Right.
And that's actually enough to work with.
Yeah.
I think another piece is that I hear from clients sometimes is, well, this was 50 years ago. Guess what? We can work on that too.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter when it happened. You can still work on it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you for that work that you're doing. I think it's so important. And, like I said, I'm looking at it from every different perspective of a person's life from, gosh, look at poor kids that are in college, like what they're going through now and working out as they continue to get to their careers. Like there's so much there that I'm sure that this could help with right through, somebody who, not just their career, but like your point, military with PTSD and working through that, and just so much help, in so many different ways. I can see this. So thank you for the work that you're doing with that. That's amazing.
I'm grateful to be able to do it.
So I want to talk next about the book collaboration that you have coming out.
Absolutely.
Are you excited?
I am. Yes. I had
Yeah,
many rewrites on this chapter, and
did
I'm sure
you?
there's always room for improvement. So, at least my own personal rewrites, not from the editor. Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about your chapter. What's coming up?
Chapter is called Journaling on a Midlife Metamorphosis. And for those of us that are in midlife, I'm sure it sounds pretty familiar that sometimes there's that knowledge in the wings that's knocking on the door and is finally ready to step center stage. Whereas maybe you're in your 30s, like, yeah, okay, I'm hearing you. Maybe I'm not ready for that just yet. So sometimes midlife is, there's an integration period, I think, many of us go through where things start to click and make sense. And so this chapter talks a little bit about the journey, a little bit of my journey on that, along with some core wisdom that I've, integrated now at this stage in midlife and the importance and impact of it. Yeah.
That's very interesting. And yeah, it's funny in your 30s, things are like, either you're too young or you don't have enough experience, or I'll figure it out later. And then the
Yep.
next thing you know, you're like, you're in the messy middle of your 50s and you're like, what is the world coming? Like, what are we doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the later part certainly resonates. Yeah, I hear that. I think, I got more time. And then at some point you realize now is as good a time as any.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the mind and body connection? So really staying in tune with like what your mind and your body are going through. And how do you use that, do you think, as part of the ways to navigate this part of life?
I think growing up, I was someone that lived a bit more in her head for a variety of reasons, even despite being a deeper feeler. And so this past little while, I've learned to, in some cases, reconnect with my body. And I realized that I relied on my mind. Good thing to rely on, but not the only source of wisdom when it comes to making decisions
Mhm.
of many kinds in life. So when we think about wisdom of the body, I think sometimes about expansion and contraction in terms of sensation and energy, sort of noticing where you feel something. Does it feel expansive or contracting? In that on its own lies some wisdom because the brain, and I think it's the spotlight effect, and I believe that, this was something that was leveraged by Mel Robbins in her 5-second rule, is if you drop in and see where you're feeling things in the first 5 seconds, you have a first piece of wisdom. Past that point, the brain starts to chime in with all of its lenses and filters. And so navigating life by accessing both sources of wisdom has been a good shift for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was part of a speaking panel a few weeks ago, and
Yeah.
one of the members of the audience asked, what's one of your greatest assets that you have? And I say gut instinct. If it doesn't feel right in your gut, then don't do it. Because I think people dismiss how your body reacts to something that you know is not the right direction.
Yeah. No, I 100% Emily. There's an additional lens I add to it too, especially if even after tuning into my body, there remains a bit of uncertainty. So, because we've all navigated some challenging times in life, of a variety of extents, when something feels expansive, uh, is it feel safe or does it feel familiar? Because sometimes something familiar isn't always the best course
Yeah.
for you. So, building discernment around those elements, I feel is really important. The same thing if something feels like a contraction. Is it something that is truly that gut feel that you're talking about, or is it something that you're shying away from because it's something new that might possibly be good for you?
Yeah.
So there's, I think, an additional layer of discernment that I'm working to apply, I would say, in that space.
I love that. And, and the reason why is because sometimes the things that scare the heck out of you are the exact thing that you need to go do. Like,
Yep.
get away from what feels comfortable, get away from like, what's going to just make you feel, oh, everything's fine, and leap into something that just scares the hell out of you, quite frankly, and go that direction, because in that moment, that's probably deep down, you want to do that anyway. Your gut's telling you to go for it. You just got to get out of your head to know that you can do it.
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes I call like the intuition or the tuning in to feel more like a quiet knowing.
Yeah.
You know, where sometimes there can be a desire to do something that maybe feels a bit more frenetic or panicked.
Yeah.
Even just a little bit. So that's part of how I personally can tell a little bit of a difference between what's something I really need to go and do
Yeah.
versus something that maybe I need to pause on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that could be its own like episode, just talking about that piece, because it's so important.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not something that you can teach. It has to come with experience and listening to your body and listening to how you're responding, and knowing when to get out of your head is the exact thing that you need to do in that moment.
100%. I might also add too that it's helped by understanding what your limiting beliefs are. Like, what are some of the most common ones, and how do they show up?
Yeah.
And it's not just scenarios that trigger them. It's also where you feel them too. It's like, okay, well, maybe if you've got a limiting belief or a maladaptive core belief, and it shows up in your lower back, for example, and it feels a bit like this way. I mean, beyond the average aches and pains that some of us experience in midlife. Put my hand up there. It's paying attention to where things surface physically as well.
Yep. And I highly recommend BioFreeze. BioFreeze will get you through anything.
I think I've probably tried that.
Well, how about what about the facts in looking at the company that we keep? So outside of how we feel, but the people that we stay attached to, and maybe sometimes we stay attached to the situation because of the people, either we care a lot for them or we don't know how to move on from them, or because that means it's an uncomfortable situation. What about the people aspect of how we move to those next levels as well?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of literature out there around the importance of the company that we keep, and it's not always about completely removing people, as some have said. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's focusing on where you're at in life right now, and people that as I speak about in the chapter can alchemize, help you alchemize your purpose and your journey and your growth. Sometimes that's that person who's willing to have those very frank and vulnerable conversations with you about opportunities for growth, and yet it's rooted in love, care, and genuine positive wish. And others might be in a different space from you, or there's a misalignment, and part of that's tuning in and knowing what matters most to you, and how that either matches or maybe doesn't on some levels with someone else. And so in that respect, there's a decision that you need to make, is where am I putting my energy? right?
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's important to keep in mind sometimes people are there for seasons, and
Absolutely.
if the
Yeah.
season starts to turn, and maybe idealisms or just different things come up, it's okay that maybe the season's going to change.
Yep. No, absolutely. And as I said, it can be within the ecosystem. Maybe they're a little bit further out from the proximity or from the center than
Yeah,
maybe they once were in the past. And people, as you say, people can come and go for different reasons, as you would in their world, for a
yeah,
variety of reasons too.
yeah.
Yeah. A key piece.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah. The key piece is having people who are genuinely in your cheering section,
yeah.
and they're there to help you grow as you are there to help them do the same.
Yeah. Absolutely. And keep the cheerleaders who are there on the day when you're sitting on the floor, not sure what the right move is next, and those that are standing next to you on the brightest stages, because those people who can support you no matter where you are, those are the ones that you want to keep with you for every season. But it's, there are going to be those people. And I think it's hard to get to that point at the first time in your life when you have to decide that my season's changed and maybe this person's going to play a different role.
Yep.
That can be challenging. But I think people need to know it's not just you, and it's something that people go through, and it's a normal part of growth and evolution for everybody.
It absolutely is. And with the change, either like positive or negative or whatever emotion you attribute it to or
Yeah,
attribute to it, allow yourself to feel the grief around the change.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It
Yeah.
can be sad, but I think you also have to. Those are the memories that you also make along the way.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's that key reminder of who was in your immediate circles and how that actually shapes and plays a role in shaping your current world.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, the other thing I want to touch upon, and kind of this same talk track, is when we connected back in March. You introduced me to Emery Hall's "I've Been 1,000 Different Women." I had never heard of that before.
Yeah.
However, I have gone through and I've listened to it. It's beautiful. But let's talk about the poem as a whole, but also how should we honor those that we have been in the past? So we talk about others and having to let go of maybe those relationships, but there's people who you're going to be somebody today that you may not be in 5 years. How do we honor that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and one I think is going to be experienced by everybody a bit differently.
Yeah,
There is one word that surfaces is gratitude. Yeah.
I love that.
Where gratitude and grief can coexist, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, celebration and yet reflection at the same time, because that person who you are evolving from, as described in the poem,
yep,
is the person that got you to where you got today, to where you are today. And he or she or they worked really hard to get you to where you are. Despite the bumps and the good times.
yeah. How important do you think it is to go back and revisit those different evolutions of who you were over the course of your life?
I think it's a key part, because in today's world in particular, we're so present time and future focused that we forget to look backwards at how far we've come.
Yeah.
And in looking back, there's an opportunity to integrate the lessons and the wisdom, and also witness ourselves and all that we've been through, both good, bad, sad, and amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I miss the time. And so this is just a little side note. So when we first got married, we did not have a lot of money, like to the point,
Sure.
electric was getting shut off. But there was a Christmas where a client had given us this great big cheese wheel. Like, we thought we were rich, right? We had all this cheese, and somebody had given us a box of wine, and we would sit in bed, in our waterbed. That's how old I am, is that we had a waterbed. It was warm. We were eating cheese and drinking wine. And there's a lot of times where I go back and I was like, I'd like to do that again. Like, I'd like to rewind time, because you think about what the discussions were during that time. You think about the way that you felt. You think about, kind of where you were, and then the work that's taken to go from, wine and cheese in bed that was free to now, nice other things. But, I think going back to reflect on those times, it does something for me personally. And I think, you don't know about yourself if you have a memory that comes up, but it's like taking that time to think about that is so cool, because you realize everything that you've had to go through to get to today.
100%. And I'm afraid the author's name of this escapes me at the moment, but there's a lovely story about, say, a master potter, and the idea that, we all are our own forms of clay, and that the master potter puts us in the kiln for a variety of reasons, and each layer, each experience, each phase of life builds you, makes you stronger. Sometimes we crack, and then I believe, as the Japanese pottery features the cracks. Those get cemented and solidified as well, and it's all an architecture or a mosaic for who we are today. And some of it's hard, and that's it can be hard, and yet you can look forward to it at the same time, because as you go back and reflect on that experience, as you've talked about, there's growth, and you recognize that certain experiences are why you're able to do or A, B, and C today, or why you're able to function at a certain level or state today that maybe you wouldn't have been able to had you not navigated.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. Now, do you help your patients go through these? Is there any part of like this type of exercise that you help them go through to realize how much work they've already done as part of like their growth?
Yeah, 100%. I think especially for clients that navigate ADD, ADHD,
Hmm.
or just are generally very, very busy people. That's what we talk about, the demand on attention.
Yeah,
And so creating enough of a space to pause, to look backwards, it anchors people and connects people with who they are again.
yeah,
So when you're focused on future, or even sometimes the busyness of the present, it can be a little bit tough to anchor yourself in who you are now. And I don't know how often, all of us have or done, or all of us have connected with who we are
yeah.
and how we've evolved. So hence, going back to that poem, those different layers of who we are and looking back is really important, because life circumstances change. What mattered to you 3 years ago or even last year can change. So anchoring people in what matters most to them now, things that they've accomplished and where they want to channel energy in present time and future, is a really important grounding exercise and an anchor, despite the world's frenetics at the moment.
I love that. And we're halfway through the year. Now is a good time to take just a couple hours and kind of think about that, because I think that helps to anchor where you want to go. And we still have half a year that, you've maybe set goals for 2026. Halfway through, reflect upon where you've been, what you've accomplished this year, and then how you apply that to hitting your goals for the rest of 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like beyond goals, think about where you want to put your energy.
Yeah.
If you're truly connected to what's most important to you, from a values perspective, rather that be it an individual, or if you're in a relationship, or like a family, or even an organization, how aligned are you with where you really want to be spending your time and energy based on what's most important?
Yep.
Yep.
And
What shifts might you make? You know?
yeah, and I think most important for what makes you feel good. I think that needs to be a big factor there.
Yeah. I think there's a temptation to really cram the schedule full. I've certainly done it. I know many people that have as well. And I'm going to quote a former coach of mine, Pat Johnson. She introduced me to the concept of focus on being a human being versus a human doing.
Oh, I love that.
I love it too. And it's a wonderful reminder that you need to give yourself permission just to exist once in a while. And maybe that's, sitting on a park bench and watching the ducks, or, you know, playing with your kids, or your pet, or engaging in your favorite hobby for a bit.
Maybe scuba diving.
Yeah, maybe even doing some of that, and hanging out with the fish and the kelp.
Awesome. Well, how can we support the work that you're doing? My problem is I could talk to you all day. I love the work that you're doing. I think it's so important. But how can we further support you and your ongoing work?
I think something that everybody can do is to continue normalizing conversations around mental health and wellness, and get it to a point where people feel more comfortable accessing help and support.
Yeah.
That's a big one. If there's somebody you believe that I may be able to support, I'm more than happy to have a conversation as well. Do have a website I can share. I do also see people in person in my hometown of Victoria, BC, through Strength and Heart Counseling as well, in the evenings.
That's wonderful.
A big, broader piece is keep normalizing that discussion, accessing help, and building resiliency through a variety of tools, whether it happens to be EMDR or your own joy based practices. Keep building on those and recognizing that that's a normal part of living. A nervous system is Keeping a nervous system well is just as important as keeping your brain healthy or your heart healthy. And this is EMDR, for example, is one approach to support that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, again, there's such an importance to keeping in mind that asking for help is a strength. And there are people who really are here to support you, like yourself. And we'll put links to your website out there. But, nobody should feel at all questioning the ability to go look for somebody to talk to, because that's just such an important part of who we are as people. And there's a lot of seasons that you're going to go through, and sometimes you just need somebody to partner with to say, I got you.
Yep. Even if it's for a short co-pilot trip, or a short walk alongside, as I call it. And, the clients that I've worked with in this process, they're really brave and really strong people, probably more than they realize. And what I love about the trauma reprocessing piece, for those of you who are curious about doing a bit more of a deep dive into science, if you look at epigenetic transfer, the trauma that you reprocess is what stops with you and does not pass on to future generations.
Yeah.
So you're not just healing yourself.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lisa Thomas, but she's been on the show before, and she is an epigenetics professional. And it's very interesting to hear about the trauma that you're carrying with you that you do not realize, and how to get past that. The things that we tell ourselves because we've always been told that. I remember her deeply talking about, why should you look for another job when you already have one that compensates you well? Like, you have a job, why look for something else? And that can be caused by parents who, that's not what you did. when you in that era is you didn't look for something else because you were happy with the job that you had.
Yep. And
Yep.
sometimes it's your nervous system or vagal tone is at a certain level because of what your ancestors experienced. And
Okay.
so some people I know have a certain level of anxiety, but they don't know where it comes from. And sometimes the interesting comment is, well, maybe it's not yours.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just carrying it with you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Interesting. Like I said, I could talk to you all day.
Same here.
Well, I hope you'll come back to the show. I'd love to dig a little bit deeper. I think just even around the pieces in the book chapter that you've got coming up, journaling and taking a moment to honor, who you've been and where you're going, but also then I think the seasons in life and who's with you during those seasons. I think there's something more that we could, definitely dig into. So I hope you'll come back and join us back on the
I
show.
would welcome an opportunity, Emily. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
We're going to hope that I remember my headset, that we don't have technical issues last time. Poor producer Ken has earned his takeout tonight because he's been running around here like crazy.
Hey, what was the theme that we talked about earlier? Go with the flow.
You got to go with the flow.
Thanks.
It's just been the theme of the week, but we're happy to do it. We're so happy to have had you back on the show, Claire. I'm excited about the book chapter. I really do think the work that you're doing is making such a difference in people's lives, and not just the ones that you're partnering with, but coming on podcasts and sharing your book chapters and sharing how people can, grow themselves and get past any types of challenges that they're seeing and having somebody who's available to them. So thanks for coming on the show and talking about these things. And again, bringing it to life, because if we're not talking about it, then it's just, people are going to continue to struggle, and that's just not something that they have to do.
Yeah, 100%, Emily. Again, grateful to have an opportunity to share more on this topic, and we'll definitely look forward to another opportunity in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you for being here, Ken. Thank you for sticking in there tonight.
You got it.
Thanks, Ken.
Which microphone we're picking up through right now, so we're gonna
just go with it. He's like, we're going with it. Yep. We also really want to thank. Behind me, this isn't my home, Claire. We have a wonderful, wonderful community here that we live in, and they've just been so supportive of the show and topics like this and allowing us to bring them to life. So we want to thank our friends at Romans tonight, who have sponsored the episode and allowed us to come in and use their space so that we could bring forward this important topic and awareness to, making sure people understand that they're not alone, and there's tools and there's people like yourself who are out there supporting and partnering with others to get to where they need to go in life. And thank you for walking beside so many people.
Thanks so much, Emily. I appreciate it. And I will be grateful to walk alongside many more.
All right. Awesome. We want to thank everybody who has joined us tonight. We really appreciate it. We've had a lot of activity, a lot of live folks joining us. So thank you to everybody who's watched us live. If you're a subscriber, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And once again, just a huge shout out to Romans here in Batavia for the community support. Just like Claire says, we can't do it by ourselves. And boy, we do appreciate the support that's jumped in to help the podcast. So thank you, everybody. I hope everyone has a fantastic night. And Claire, thank you again for being here.
Thanks, Emily and Ken and everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Have a good night.